Hey guys, my name is Edward Ellington, and I am going to be talking about the chapter in Bloom that deals with mental illness and reporting on mental illness. So, or rather, I guess I should say mental health actually. So, since mental illness falls under the under the purview of mental health. What the author did, which I thought was interesting, is that he sort of interlaced some of his past work with his thoughts and ethos on reporting on mental health issues. So, he kind of talked about his thoughts, and then he would show a section of his work that that sort of exemplified or showed what it is that he was talking about. He would give a tip and then show his example from his work. What I thought was the headline of this chapter, if we had to write a headline, I think the headline of this chapter would be don't shy away from personal experience. So what the author spoke about, which I thought was interesting, was that mental health issues are different than, say, deep space exploration or any of these other types of science that we may be reporting on from time to time. That basically he said that because mental illness and mental health issues are so personal, and so they so much of what happens as a in the world, so much of what happens to people as they interface with issues surrounding mental health is that they are changed by the experience, and they are the practical experience of living through issues of mental health and mental illness are unlike new discoveries in biology or new discoveries in space or new techniques for surgery or anything like that. Mental health, mental illness, however you want to say it, is it's one of the realms where personal experience with the issues surrounding mental health really does affect how we process information as it relates to mental health. For example, the author is a reporter who's had a very illustrious career when it comes to reporting on science, economics, and other areas like that are very heavily based in research. So this author is an award-winning reporter who has he's got a lot of experience writing research-based articles. So that is where he has kind of like made his bones, and that's where he's comfortable. But he said that just kind of won't do in this realm. So what he decided to do, instead of hiding behind the concept of, not hiding behind, but staying where he would be comfortable, what he decided to do is to head into exploring and talking about reporting on mental health issues by coming forward with his own experiences with mental health issues, that being his two children. He has two children with mental illnesses, one of whom attempted suicide, and the other child who has just struggled mightily with being bipolar. So he normally would, of course, if he was just writing about a new jet at NASA's jet, propulsion labs, naturally he's not going to talk about his own experiences because he doesn't have any. And with economics, he's not going to necessarily get out there and talk about what he's investing in now, because that's not applicable to everyone. And in fact might take away from his message. But in this case, he felt that the thing that made him capable of writing articles that mattered to people is if he applied and introduced his own experiences with his family and his children, etc. The other part of what he talked about is that mental health is different than a lot of other areas in that most of science reporting has to do with the writer connecting the audience with the expert. So the experts talk to the reporters kind of translate in a certain level what the experts have to say and are talking about, and then offer that simplified or at least changed version of what, taking what the experts may be talking about with respect to jargon and technical terms, this, that, and the other, and then making that into a digestible form and giving it to the audience. What the author talked about in mental health, you have two areas of experts. You have neuroscientists and you have psychiatrists, but they don't speak one another's language. Neuroscientists don't know much about mental health, by and large, at least not part of their discipline. Part of their discipline is not learning about mental health issues. They learn about the brain, chemistry, structure, development, injury, things like that. But they don't learn about what it means to be bipolar, or what it means to have seasonal affective disorder, or any of these other things that people struggle with on the day-to-day. That gives rise to the second area of experts, which are psychiatrists. Psychiatrists deal with mental health issues, so they do speak the language of bipolar or schizophrenia or any of these things. Their job is to understand how mental health manifests itself in a patient and how to treat that patient. What they don't know is neuroscience. So you have these two, as part of the practice of psychiatry, becoming a psychiatrist, you don't learn neuroscience. So what winds up, we have these two camps that are the right and left hand of dealing with mental health, and they don't speak one another's language. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. So where the reporter comes in is that the reporter, instead of simply translating the expert so that the audience can understand the experts, the reporter actually bridges the gap between the two experts and then the audience as well. So that is a very, I when I first was kind of wrapping my mind around that, I really thought like, wow, that's kind of unfortunate that these two camps don't necessarily know what the other is doing. But the way he put it, I thought was very interesting, and he really did sort of heighten the status or the place of importance with respect to the reporter. So, on the one hand, it's unfortunate and it makes things complex when it comes, if you think about it in terms of how mental health is addressed and treated. But for the reporter, it's actually good. The reporter can serve a much greater purpose in this particular field than in others. Beyond that, what the author also talked about is that the reporter of mental health issues has yet another responsibility in this area that is different from his reporting in any other discipline of science, and that is mental health carries a stigma, as we all know, social stigma, and it in fact carries a professional stigma too, because it is not a concrete, the diagnostic tools and diagnostic if you have a broken leg, your leg is broken. You have an x-ray, you see there's the break, this is how we're going to fix it, bingo bango, take another x-ray in 6 weeks, it's healed, great. Mental health is not like that. Misdiagnosis and second guessing diagnoses and more importantly, skepticism surrounding the patient and skepticism surrounding the doctors who are looking into the various areas of mental health issues is very high and results in a lot of rumor, innuendo, stereotyping. The reporter, the science reporter, the mental health reporter, has a duty and a responsibility, according to this author, to combat using language or reporting that can play into those stereotypes, those rumors, that innuendo, which is very different than, again, with, say, chemistry or something like that. So those are the big things: to bring one's own personal experience into reporting on mental health issues. If you don't have personal experience with it, go find someone who is dealing with these issues, get in the trenches with them, as the author said. Second, The reporter serves a very different and heightened purpose when reporting on mental health issues, to translate not just between the expert and the audience, but the expert and the experts. And finally, to be very vigilant in reporting on fact, not rumor and innuendo.